All right, here are the first 9 for today's Delta Math assignment. So the first one here, you've got midline is the middle line. You're just looking straight at it. You're trying to see where this middle line is, and it's going to be right at a 2. So they want the equation of it, which we know always starts with y equals. So y equals, and then you'll put a positive 2 in there. And then hit enter. So y equals 2 will be your first one. And then your second one is amplitude. That's your vertical stretch. So to get the amplitude, you have to find where the middle is. So the middle is here at -2. That's the middle. So how far above? 1, 2, 3 above, and 1, 2, 3 below the middle. So the amplitude is a 3. It's 3 above and 3 below. So you're just putting a 3 in there for amplitude. Okay, just our ABCDs. That was the A part of the graph. The midline, first midline one was like the D part of the graph. The period of the graph is what would be one rotation. So to find at one rotation, we always start on the y-axis. And since y-axis is at the top here, we're making a V shape. This is a V cosine graph. So what is one V shape? One V shape starts at 0 and ends at 4 pi. That's one V-shaped curve, one rotation. So your period on here is 4 pi. So 4 pi is your period. It's one rotation, one bow tie, or one V is going to represent your period on the graph. Okay, so those are your first 3. That's just our ABCDs. Now for the cool stuff. Trig graph discovery, level 1. This is where you get to play around with some of the numbers and you get to hit the word try. You want to get your solid graph to land on top of the dotted graph. So to do that, I already see that it's going to need to go up. And if it starts here at 0 and it goes up here to 3, I know I'm probably going to need to go up 3 units. So I'm going to go put a 3 in there. And I can just hit try right now. And it'll show me that, yeah, it's matching up right here on the y-axis. And if I leave these blank, that's like a 1 and a 1 in there. It's like they default to 1. Now my center would be the 3, and I know I need to go 1, 2 above it. So I know my amplitude's got to be a 2 to get to that match. And then I hit the try button again. And if it does match completely, it'll tell you your graph is correct, and then you can hit submit. So you don't have to fill in all of the boxes. It'll leave the default as that middle default box will be a 1, and you can just hit submit. So your job is just to get the 2 matches or the 2 graphs to match. Okay, so that's level 1's a little easier. Level 2 gets a little harder. Level 3 and 4 may be a little more challenging. Level 2, now, again, I like to look first at the midline. Midline is here, and midline is going to be down 4 units. So I'm going to know that's a -4 in there. That's usually what I look for first. And I'll hit try just to get it down there so I can see how close I am. Now, there's a couple of options here. There is a parentheses, but there's no plus in the parentheses. And I haven't shown you that if you were to simply put a -1 or just a negative in a graph, negatives always change signs, which means it's going to flip everything over the midline. So if I just stick a negative there and hit the word try, it flipped everything over and it made the correct graph. So you just want to have a negative in the first box and a -4 in the second box. Negatives will flip the graph over. So if you got the 2 negatives in there, negative in front of sign, -4, you can hit yes. So some are challenging, some are not as challenging, some are pretty easy. Just work your way through them. You always have the try button. So if you don't give up, you'll always get those right if you don't give up. Trig functions given the features. So if they're giving you a midline and they're giving you an amplitude and they're giving you a period, you can just plug it all right in. It always starts with f of x, which they gave you, or y. You can put y equals, but they put f of x. So we know that our amplitude is 2, and it's a cosine graph. Okay, so I know that I'm going to put 2, and then I'm going to put cosine. And you can type COS, or you can actually find cosine under functions too. You can find cosine. And actually, let's back that, space that one off. So go back and put the 2 there. So 2 cosine, because we know the amplitude's a 2, and we know it's going to be a plus 5 outside of the parentheses, because we know the amplitude, the y equals 5 tells me it's going up 5. So I know it's going to be a plus 5. The period is pi over 2. That's the tricky part. Period is pi over 2. And we need, so 2 pi, let me show you how it works. Okay, so you're going to need 2 pi divided by b, and it has to equal pi over 2. Because they're actually giving you the period right here. They're telling you what the period is. What they're not giving you is the b number that goes inside of that box with x. So that's what's missing. So we got to solve for b, and it's just a cross multiplying. 2 pi times 2 is 4 pi, and b times pi would be b pi. And so divide by pi on both sides, and the pi's cancel out, and your b number is a 4. So it's going to be a 4x that goes in there. We knew there had to be an x in there because f of x, and then we have to put a 4 in front of it and multiply it because the b came out to be a 4 right there. So go back and put 4x in there, and then hit submit. So 2 is from the amplitude right there. 5 in the back is because we're going up 5, because y is not 0 now, y is up 5. And then 4 is because the period came out to be pi over 2. So if you submit that, it should give you the right answer. Just working your way through it. That's all you're doing, working your way through the ABCs. And this time the C was actually the D number. Okay, let's go to a trig equation from a graph. So if they give us a graph and they tell us to write this equation, again, we can do that. We're going to need to start it with either f of x or y equals. I suggest y equals, it's easier. So I'd put y equals. And then I would find the midline. The midline is going to be down here at -3. That's the first thing I like to look for. So I know that I'm going to have a -3 somewhere. Now I'm going to go back up to the front, and I'm going to look to see what my shape is. On the y-axis, it's at the top, and it makes a nice big V. Okay, I know that makes a V because on the y-axis, it's a top number, and it ends at a top number. So I know it's going to be a cosine graph. Now the -3 is not in the parentheses. The -3 is going to be after the parentheses, because I know it goes 3 down. Now, I can also see that it's going to be 2 above the -3 and 2 below the -3. So in front of cosine, I know it's a 2. The amplitude's a 2. And if I'm looking at the y-axis, my period is pi over 2. Period is pi over 2. And I just solved pi over 2. Remember, if 2 pi over b right here, 2 pi over b equals pi over 2, then the b came out to be 4. So we just found out what would happen if you had a period of pi over 2. So go back to your equation and put 4x in there. So your period is pi over 2. So we had to do the same equation. We had to make 2 pi over b. We had to make 2 pi over b right here. We had to make it equal pi over 2 because that was my period. And once I set that equal and I solve for b, I got b as 4. So 4x is what goes in there. So you got your amplitude, you got your 4x, you got your -3 going down. There's no right or left shift, so we'll hit submit. That would be your answer for that one. Shows you what one complete V is, and one V is a cosine graph, and one V is a pi over 2 period. So we had to make our 2 over B equal pi over 2. 2 over a period equal pi over 2. We could solve it, we get a 4, just kind of like they did there. I think mine was easier to solve, though. I just did a proportion. Okay, let's go to graphing trig functions. Level 1. How many did I do so far? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So 2 left here. Oh, I did show you these. I did have these two on here. Okay, these two we're going to save for the Thursday when I get back. So you don't have to do these next two. You can wait on these next two, the graphing, level 1 and level 2, and they're also at the bottom, so you can save those two for Thursday when I get back. Okay, so hopefully you got the 7 that I did together with you, and then we'll do the other two on Thursday. So be good, finish up your assignment, and we'll see you guys tomorrow.